I'm stoked to move on. You ready to Libra?
Yeah, I'm ready to Libra.
So Libra is a cardinal air sign ruled by Venus.
Being a Venus-ruled sign, it has that artistry and beauty that Venus reigns over. It exemplifies those qualities of Venus. They're usually very charming, very graceful, very well put together. They have that Venusian cast to the way they look and the way they speak. They're incredible hosts of people when they like to socialize or entertain, and they do like to socialize quite a bit. They're also a pretty excellent, if not the best, networkers. They're so good at connecting different, especially Libra. Because one thing that I did want to point out was the difference between sun, moon, and rising in Libra, which you'll get in any sign, but I think it's pretty pronounced in Libra. But Libra sun, they are just such excellent networkers. Their instinct really can connect disparate people or groups with each other, and I find that they're so talented at that. And work situations tend to be real diplomats. I find the sun in Libra to be somewhat tactical, which is could be a low light or a highlight. A little more strategic and tactical than perhaps the moon or the rising sign in Libra. Very tenacious, very on the surface, just appear very charming, very graceful, very well put together. You love having them at a party or just in your life. They're just always a pleasure to hang out with. The rising signs I find to be more concerned with, of course, with their appearance, and a little more concerned with appearances in general, which can be construed as a low light, perhaps, or a shadow side, is that they might get kind of drawn in by pretty appearances rather than looking at the whole substance of something. Did you find that about Libra risings? And the moon in Libra tend to, from my experience, also be very graceful and pleasant people, and can get pretty concerned with how others see them, to the point where they have a deep need to be liked, and that can get in the way of some things they might. Sometimes you can't be nice to everyone, right? And the moon in Libra is kind of quintessentially nice, and Libra in general is just a quote unquote nice energy. So when you do the dirty work or the ugly work or something that doesn't feel good, Libra energy has a harder time with that, and especially the moon in Libra.
Well, I think it's interesting that with Libra, we're having a difficult time not jumping back and forth between the light and the shadow, as much as there's so much light with Libra, but it makes sense, right, with the scales. And I feel like Libras are always doing that too. They're always sort of trying to find that balance. And so it is sort of hard to not talk about like the nice side of Libra, that lightness, that way in which they are so diplomatic, such amazing networkers, able to connect people. They really value harmony and ease and interaction, and they're sort of very charming as well. So, of course, such an amazing networking energy. But yeah, it's hard to talk about that without talking or mentioning the shadow side of it, which could potentially be, it can feel like a pleaser energy, like sort of it can sometimes be in like a negative way. Like you wonder if it's authentic, or is the person sort of trying to charm you, or are they saying the same thing to everybody, or can it come off as a bit two-faced? But it isn't coming from a place of inauthenticity. It really is actually just coming from that value of harmony and peace, and seeing the person's perspective who's in front of them, that kindness and grace kind of that they have. They're sort of good at taking care of themselves. And so that can sort of lead to social interactions that in a way, yes, are super nice and wonderful, but also in a way maybe aren't as authentic. I remember hearing once that Libra is like an Aries that's been to charm school. And I feel like that's true.
Fantastic.
And it's the flip side of that same axis, right? Like they both are sort of that starting, beginning of spring, beginning of fall energy. But I feel like Libra has a desire to please in a way that Aries doesn't. Aries is showing up pretty raw. Libra has that awareness of the other, and that's that seventh house connection too, I guess, where the zodiac starts to flip, and now we're on that back half. More concerned with the other. Yeah.
That is really great in Aries. She's going to charm school. I wonder if you could reverse that around for Aries in terms of a Libra who's
who hasn't been to charm school
or been to charm school, but yeah, Grace is just a strong image or concept attached to Libra. But in terms of you mentioned the Aries dichotomy, and Libra is cardinal air, and cardinal signs are active, and they're active kind of charged signs. And in terms of Libra's need and desire to balance things and to find balance in things, that's a very active energy. It's not, Libras can appear so kind of benign on the surface and so pleasant and pleasing and wanting, and charming everyone around them, but they're that act of balancing, which is instinctive for Libra, and sometimes they'll do it just on the spot in a tense situation. They'll just feel the instinctive need to balance the energy in a room, or it could be in a broader sense in terms of justice or balancing larger, more ongoing situations. But that's such an active act. It's a constant vigilance and a constant. You can imagine yourself balancing on one foot. You have this constant sort of tension between the left and the right and front and the back. If you're doing a yoga pose where you're balancing, there's just so much tension going on there. And I feel like that charges Libra. That's always a current running under the surface.
I think active is a great word for it because, they seem so balanced, which has like a still image to it, balanced. But no, they're working hard for that balance.
Exactly.
It's like everyone sort of thinks that Libra is very harmonious except for them, and they know that they're working incredibly hard at that all the time, going, is my relationship working the way it should? Is there anything I can tweak there to make it a little better? Is my job really as fulfilling as it ought to be, or should I have been promoted by, they're always kind of assessing and trying to perfect and make things better and better, for better or worse, I guess, whether that's a light side or a shadow side. Good at self-care, I thought was important. They are sort of like a beautiful fall day. I think of Libra season, that like amazing day, sort of it's like the beginning of October maybe, when it's just crisp and the leaves are changing and it's a sunny day, but it's not hot and it's not cold, and it's just this wonderful day. And I think Libra can have that feeling to it. The people can have that feeling to it. They also, because of the Venus thing, can have great style, right? They can be very beautiful physically, and also just have a great style and a great eye for beauty.
Yeah, for beauty, for form, for harmony, for architecture, all the things that go along with art, design, aesthetics.
They can be very romantic. I think sometimes, I feel like sometimes Libra women can, if they have, especially someone with a lot of Libra in their chart, can have like a bit of a Venus vibe on the earth. They can turn a lot of heads, and it's the beauty, and it's also just they're like quite alluring in different ways. Elegant and romantic vibes. Yeah. I do kind of like that we bounce back and forth a little bit more than usual, but let's go into the shadow a little more specifically, maybe.
Sure.
I do think that for them, that pleasing side comes to mind for me for a Libra side. And I say for them because I think for other people, this might not be a problem. The fact that Libra wants to know where you want to go for dinner and then is sort of willing to go there rather than having as many personal preferences. But for them, learning to look out for their own interests and not just be a pleaser would be something that would be a part of their work sometimes in life. I often see with strong Libra signature, there's a strong signature in another direction, though. It's like someone has like Libra and Aries or Libra and Leo. There's something that the Libra is sort of taming in the chart. It's like if it wasn't for that Libra, they'd really just be on fire. And the Libra kind of brings them back into relation with other people. Sometimes I think the shadow side of Libra can be that they can sort of suppress problems because they don't like conflict, and they can be conflict avoidant. So It is important to talk about, issues as they come up in relationships and not let things pile up too much. And Libra can let things go pretty easily, which is a good thing, but you want to address the important things so they don't pile up. Sometimes they can be a bit indecisive because of that always seeking balance thing. It can be hard to know what the right choice is, and they can sort of go back and forth. They can be very relationship focused. They're sort of, sometimes Libra isn't great at being alone. That would be another real contrast with Aries. Aries really needs that time alone. Libra really needs time with other people.
Yeah.
So sort of struggling with that independence and with self-identity outside of a relationship can sometimes be a part of the Libra shadow.
Mm-hmm. I have quite a few of those noted down as shadow sides for Libra. Certainly, their penchant for relationships, that they don't like to be alone, that can lead to rushing into relationships. Sometimes that might not be good for them, just to fill the space, which is something Libras you can do to be more vigilant about if they find that they're kind of going there from relationship to relationship or overlapping those, as some people do of all signs, but we all know someone who's sort of, is never alone. So that certainly can work against a Libra's long-term goals, perhaps. Indecision being kind of a classic Libra quality, or trying to tell someone something they'd like to hear, and the person A, and then telling person B what they'd like to hear, and then those two things conflict eventually. You can't really be all things to all people in terms of making decisions that can play out and being able to see all sides of an issue, which I think Libras are pretty good at, seeing the contours of the entire situation, but not really being able to act in one direction or another, and having a hard time letting go of one possible path by choosing the other possible path. There's that indecision there, which can be paralyzing or not effective. And then also that emphasis on beauty, which is really one which Libra has such a instinctive handle on, can tip into an overemphasis on aesthetics to the exclusion of what other forces might be at play in making a choice or in a decision. And it's just they resonate so strongly with aesthetics and beauty. There can be a superficiality to that, of just really being mesmerized by surfaces and the ways, and not really seeing the reality of something.
That's really interesting. Overly focused on the appearance sometimes to a fault.
Yeah. I had one other note too. I mean, it's plus to all air signs, really, is just that coolness that you get with an air sign, that, that sense of remove, that, so much charm can maybe obscure that beneath the charm there could be a certain coolness emotionally to Libra.
Yeah, in a way they're all so charming. Gemini really has that side at least, but then there is a coolness. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
My highlight I had that I think Libra is just so enjoyable to be around, just so pleasant. There is just a harmony and a calmness and a gracefulness and a pleasantness to Libra that I'll give for the highlight. And then I would say the low light is that struggle that they go through to find balance, a sort of level of constant discontent that they're secretly battling as they put items on the scale and try to make things as perfect as possible. I think that must be hard to live with.
For my strongest highlight for Libra, the one that stands out to me the most, and they are beautiful and graceful and whatnot, but diplomacy, their powers of diplomacy are fairly unmatched, and in work situations can especially come into play when you have dueling camps or a tense meeting or something that needs to get done but people are at odds. I think Libra is often very good at working all sides to bring people into agreement on a particular situation. And families, it's probably a little more complicated in families because there's more emotion, but I think Libras are excellent diplomats. And then in terms of the shadow / low light, I I think indecisiveness is the Libran quality that probably works least in their favor. So, and that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Ability to make a decision, which that from where to go for dinner, or if you're deciding with friends. But if you have two Libras trying to decide where to go, you're kind of on for 20 minutes, or into larger decisions, and where to go to college, or just bigger decisions. So, yeah, those are my high and my low.
That's great.
I have a friend who has a lot of Libra, and I have a fair amount of Libra. And if we do, I do decide, if we're deciding where to go for a hike, or when we see each other, where to go eat, inevitably, once we make the decision, we'll be on the way to wherever we decide, and be like, someone will say, I don't know. I mean, do you think we should really just go to the other? And that can go on for a while.
That's so funny.